Somehow, I've been making sourdough for 2 years and I never once thought to tie-dye it. I figured the colors wouldn't survive the oven, but it turns out I was wrong because I actually ended up making a bright rainbow sourdough loaf.
Wow, that looks really cool.
And it was in the shape of a butterfly. Allow me to explain and show you. I first weighed out 50 grams of active starter in 4 separate bowls. You can see it's thick and bubbly like a pancake consistency, which means it's gonna do what it needs to do to bring our rainbow vision to life. I fed it at 7 a.m. and then started pouring around 9 a.m. And as soon as the last bowl of starter was weighed out, then I added 175 grams of filtered water. This is where I wasn't sure if I should add the coloring into the water or wait and add it later. I wanted to make sure the colors would survive in the oven and have my rainbow bread be as bright as possible, so I decided to add the color before anything else. I figured 20 drops of food-grade coloring would do the trick. I just had to choose which colors, so I went with red, blue, yellow, and green. I mixed them all together and then got ready to add 250 grams of flour and 5 grams of salt into each bowl. Truth be told, I was already getting pretty excited at how nice the colors were already looking. Even though it took a while, I spent some time mixing it all together until dough balls started to form. I used a mixer at first, but then I just went at it with my hands and yeah, it got pretty messy. But I trusted the process and soon, my dough balls were fully mixed together and ready to rest for 45 minutes until they were ready for me to perform the first of 4 sets of stretch and folds. I know making sourdough is a process that involves a lot of patience, especially a rainbow one, so honestly at first I was worried that I would spend all of this time trying to make my rainbow sourdough loaf just for it all not to work. At this point, I thought there was probably around a 50-50 chance of the colors surviving in the oven, but without trying, I knew I would never know. However, the colors were looking pretty awesome by this point, so I just went with it and started my first round of stretch and folds. As awesome as the colors were looking, they did look slightly dull, and I wanted them to be brighter, so I decided here to add even more food coloring in the first stretch and fold to make sure we get the colors as bright as possible, and here I also tried my best not to rip the dough. Then I covered the dough, let it sit for another 30 minutes, and started round 2. And shortly after, round 3 begun. The stretch and folds are needed because it's what makes the bread stronger. Each stretch and fold traps air bubbles in the dough and makes it strong enough to rise in the oven and get really fluffy. Basically, you train the dough, and what I mean by that is you end up building the gluten structure, so the more you stretch it, the stronger it gets. And the wild part is that without this step, all those air bubbles would just collapse in the oven and we'd have a very colorful, very flat brick. So technically, I could have done 6 or 7 rounds of this or added in a couple rounds of coil folds, which is just picking up the dough right in the middle and slapping it down a few times without ripping it. But honestly, every time I make bread, I end up doing it differently based on how my dough is looking. So this time I decided to just stick with 4 rounds of stretch and folds until I was content enough with the amount of air bubbles and elasticity in my colorful dough balls. But 2 hours later, by the 4th round, you could see that the dough was getting a lot firmer, which was a really good sign. And after a full morning of waiting, stretching, and folding, the dough was finally ready to bulk ferment and rise. And about 8 hours later, as I was getting ready for bed, I went to check on our dough to see that each bowl of colorful dough just about doubled in size. So I removed the plates from the top, exchanged them with bowls that were a bit larger so the dough wouldn't stick to the top, and then I put them in the fridge overnight because it's what slows down the rising process, and I wasn't ready to bake it yet. You can shape it before you put it in the fridge, but I like to do that the next day. So, I got a good night's rest, and in the morning, I removed the dough from the fridge, and my dough balls were looking colorful and basically ready to get in the oven. There were a ton of air bubbles, which was a really good sign. So I put some flour down onto the counter and removed each dough ball from the bowls. I stretched each piece of dough out, again being careful not to rip or rupture the dough. Then I started piling them onto each other. I decided to layer red, then yellow, then green, then blue, you know, proper rainbow order. And honestly, at this point, I knew there was a strong chance that this would work.
That looks really cool.
Probably now we were at like 80-20 because the dough was looking fluffy as ever. It just looked perfect. It slayed, so I was pumped. I folded the sides, and then I rolled it up into a big ball and started doing push and pulls, which is what builds the tension in the dough.
Building the tension. It's gonna be a fat loaf.
This is where I was deciding on whether or not to cut the loaf in half to make 2 loaves.
Probably should have cut it in half. Is it too late to undo it? Yeah, it's way too late.
Because that's what my recipe usually calls for. But if I wanted to do 2 loaves, I knew I missed my mark because I needed to cut the dough balls in half before layering them all together. And since I really wanted this to look perfect, I figured I would just account for the huge loaf by keeping it in the oven for longer than I would with half of it. So I went with it, got my fat loaf into my banneton bowl, and waited for 2 hours for it to rise a bit more. I preheated my oven to 450 with my Dutch oven also preheating inside. And finally, I got my silicone mat, placed the dough right in the middle of it, and scored it. The dough really was looking amazing, so I was excited. The final results were near, and I was also nervous. I poured some rice on the bottom of my Dutch oven, which helps prevent the bottom of the bread from burning. And finally, I placed my colorful dough ball in the oven for 30 minutes with the lid on. Then I reduced the heat to 425, removed the lid to my Dutch oven, and baked it for another 20 minutes. Finally, the time passed and it was ready. I took it out of the oven, really hoping I accounted for enough extra baking time for it to fully bake through, but I was just excited at how colorful it looked already. But that still didn't mean the colors would be any good inside. I let it cool for 2 long hours until it was time to cut into it and see if all of my hard work was worth it or not. It quite literally looked perfect on the outside. I mean, the scoring could have been better, but the bottom wasn't burnt and the colors were amazing. Well, the moment of truth came. I used a serrated knife and cut right through it. I got ready to break it open, and I was shocked. It looked beautiful. And I mean beautiful.
Oh no.
The only problem...
I think I needed to cook it longer because it was huge.
I could have kept it in the oven for maybe 10 more minutes.
Still pretty cool though.
But still, it was looking so amazing, and you could see the inner workings of the rainbow sourdough actually looked like a butterfly. What are the odds of that? And that's when I knew that all my hard work paid off because the colors actually survived the oven. I opened it once more to admire it while thinking about how I actually did find out exactly what happens if you attempt to make a tie-dyed sourdough loaf into a butterfly rainbow. It really is possible. And honestly, now, the only thing on my mind is figuring out how to make an edible gold glitter-filled loaf.